Hi friends, it's Sunday and this is the first day of Timmy's TBRaTHON. This is a readathon that I'm doing with my top tier patrons this week. For the entire week, we get to play a mini round of Timmy's TBR. This is such a surreal moment for me to see everyone playing my TBR game. It is so fun and I am excited to join in with them. So for this week, I will just be playing my TBR game, but in miniature, and seeing what Timmy's TBR has in store for me this week. Obviously, because it is mini, we will only be rolling one dice at a time, so there is no doubles, which does help slightly get through the board. So let's dive into my first roll and see what Timmy's has in store for me. Roll number 1 is a 3, a donut space, Boston Cream, a book set in the US. So for the first prompt, I landed on a donut space and got Boston Cream, a book set in the US. For this, I'm actually using a book that is on my bigger version of Timmy's TBR for April, and I'm going to be reading Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This one got on my bigger TBR for being part of my feed scroll, and this is one of the few Ali Hazelwoods I haven't read yet. I haven't read this one, and I have not read Love Theoretically, and then after that, I'm caught up on the full-size Ali Hazelwood novels. This is obviously a STEM romance. It's Ali Hazelwood, and I believe it's set somewhere at NASA, but I'm going to dive into this today and see how far I get on the first day of Timmy's TBRathon. I'm really hoping to complete the whole board this week. We'll see how that goes, but that is my plan. But who knows how many books that will be. So it is the next day, and yesterday I got through 79% of Love on the Brain. I fell into this book, and I can't believe how far I got in one sitting. I basically did the entire 79% in one sitting. I was doing some sprints, so obviously there were some breaks in there, but I pretty much binged the entire 79%. In this book, we follow Levi and B. B has been asked to come be a co-lead on a project due to some sort of fancy helmet at NASA. B is a neuroscientist, and she will be mapping the brain and making sure that the helmet can stimulate different parts of the brain. Levi is the engineer on the project. They knew each other in grad school and they did not get along. They were basically nemesis in grad school and have really not seen each other since and have not spoken since grad school. When B gets there, she thinks that Levi still does not dislike her. There's definitely some rivalry going on, or at least it seems that way to B. Pretty quickly, I realized that it was because Levi always had a crush on her. You could kind of tell he was just awkward because he liked her and just didn't really know how to communicate with her. So he kind of removed himself from different projects in grad school so he didn't have to be around his crush. Somewhat like Edward in Twilight, where he was not wanting to be near her because he liked her smell, which I know is a weird comparison, but that's what it reminded me of. Eventually, we do figure that out with these two, and they start to work together a bit better throughout the project. And obviously, feelings do start to happen from both sides of the equation. In this book, though, we really do focus on women in STEM, not surprising with it being Ali Hazelwood. But our main character, B, really fights against that with an anonymous Twitter account called What Would Marie Curie Do? And she fights against what women in STEM come up against. As part of being a part of this Twitter universe in STEM, she has met someone else, another account called Schmacademics. Neither account knows who runs it, but we do know that the other account is a man, and he is championing what Marie Curie is trying to do and bringing light to the different issues in STEM currently. They message back and forth throughout the book, and in my head, I don't know if this is true, but I'm pretty sure it's Levi. That's what I assumed from the very beginning. I could be wrong. I actually don't know that it is, but I think it is, and it gives me a You Got Mail vibe, which I do love You Got Mail. That is one of my favorite movies. I love when I see that trope in a book, so that part is also working for me. This is probably my favorite Ali Hazelwood adult novel I've read. We're gonna have to wait and see at how it wraps up, but I do really enjoy this book. I really enjoy what it's trying to say. I feel like the thoughts on women in STEM are more coherent in this book than they were in The Love Hypothesis, which makes sense. This was written after, so again, Ali Hazelwood kind of falling into her writing rhythm a little bit more. We do still have our common Ali Hazelwood tropes. He is 6'4", she is 5 foot tall. We talk a lot about a specific food. In this book, it's veganism, which is completely fine, but you know, we're used to seeing them in Ali Hazelwood novels. They are tropes that she really does lean on. That doesn't bother me so much. I know for some people, those tropes being constantly in an Ali Hazelwood book do bother them, but for me, it's fine. I don't mind in a romance if you found what works to continue with a systematic system, a formula. Hey, if it works, stick with it. A lot of authors do, not just Ali Hazelwood. So that's not bothering me at all. I'm gonna get this done pretty quickly today because I want to see how it ends. I was sad to put it down last night, but it was midnight and I was tired, but I'm definitely excited to go read it now. So yesterday afternoon, I ended up finishing Love on the Brain, and I had to mull over my rating. Mostly because you would not expect the end of a romance to be surprising, but I was surprised at an aspect of this. Obviously, we still have our happy ending, so I don't want you to think that like there isn't a happy ending in this book, because there is. But there was a surprising twist at the end that I did not see coming. Maybe I should have. Looking back, you can kind of see the hints, but not to the extent to which we got. And I had to think about it for a while. And I had to really think, did I like that? Or was it completely out of left field and I didn't like it? And it could have went either way, and I really had to think it through. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. I think I've decided that I liked it. I think it worked for me, but it could have gone either way. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. And I still stand by that this is my favorite adult Ali Hazelwood novel. I have one that I have not read yet, which is Love Theoretically. So we'll see if that someday tops this. I don't know when I will be reading it, but eventually. I did finish this in the afternoon, so I needed a book for the evening. So let's look at my next Timmies TBRathon roll. Roll number 2 is a 5. A coffee space. Triple Triple, a book with 3 T's in the title. And for my second roll, I got a coffee space and the prompt of Triple Triple, which is a book with 3 T's in the title. For this, I picked up a buzzword book that I need to read by the end of the year, and I picked up The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Agaro. I ended up reading 49% of this book yesterday. I'm also flying through this book. Now, I will say, with this book, it is marketed as a contemporary romance. It is not that. It is a contemporary book with a romance subplot, but it is absolutely not a contemporary romance. I knew that going in. I knew it had been marketed poorly by other people, so I am enjoying what this story is. But I could see that if you went into it thinking it was a contemporary romance, you would be disappointed because it's not. This is a family drama, a family kind of coming together story with a romance kind of attached. In this book, we follow Hannah. Hannah has always known that her father is from Nigeria. She only met him once. She knows very little about him. Her mother and him had a whirlwind romance. She lives in America with Hannah and he lives in Nigeria. He is pretty well off. We know that from the beginning. He paid for Hannah's schooling. He's always taken care of Hannah financially, but was never really in her life. At the start of this book, we find out that he has passed away, and we actually meet all 4 of her siblings and follow all 4 of their perspectives. So we follow Hannah's perspectives and the 4 siblings. And I do feel like in this instance, this book is too small to support that many POVs. My other small critique is the audiobook has 1 narrator and there are 5 POVs, I think, if I counted correctly. And I think that would have done better in an audiobook format with more than 1 narrator. However, aside from that, when we are in Hannah's perspective, and I feel like as you get to know all the different people in the book, you really do settle into this book and the story is very interesting and intriguing. So Hannah finds out her father's passed away and she goes to Nigeria for the funeral. His family actually never knew about Hannah and they find out when she arrives. So there is a moment of family drama and we are seeing as each one of her siblings kind of comes to terms with this new sibling that they have. Some of them are faster on the uptake than others. Some of them really look at Hannah as a problem versus maybe that her father was the one that made the mistake, not Hannah. Some really quickly do realize that their father should have told them this. It's not Hannah's fault. Let's make life a little bit easier for Hannah. And Hannah, who has never been to Nigeria and really didn't know anything about her Nigerian culture or her Nigerian heritage, starts to find out different things about her culture and her background as she is with her family. There is a lot of Nigerian culture in this book, and that is so lovely to see, and I'm really learning a lot. It's not a culture that I would say I am super familiar with, so I'm learning along with Hannah, and I'm really enjoying that process. We also do have our love interest, Lawrence. He is one of the perspectives in this book. He is not a son, because obviously that would be weird, but he is like the semi-adopted son of this family. His mother was a maid in their household and actually died, and the family took care of him after her death because he had no one to take care of him. So he is very, very close to Hannah's family. This is reading very quickly. It's under 300 pages, so I probably will finish this today. But at this moment, I really am enjoying the book. My only critique of this book is the sheer amount of point of views in this book. I feel like it's too many. And also, I do wish the audiobook had more than one narrator, but those are very small things. And now that I'm 49% in, I really have settled into it. At the beginning, I was a little bit like, who are we following? Which sibling are we following? But now I've got a pretty good grasp of who everybody is. It is Tuesday, which means I have a pretty full day of sprints and reading, so I am going to head off and get started.
I feel like StreamYard's had a moment because we dropped like 60 people.
Oh no.
I think StreamYard's just telling me the wrong number.
You have nobody in your stream.
That can't be right.
Because no, I think YouTube just crashed.
Is that what happened? Because we dropped like so many people. Yeah, everyone was like, that's it, we're out. Pizza party's boring. Bye-bye. When I said these were going to be chaos, this is not what I meant.
I did not need YouTube to also participate in the chaos.
YouTube's like, hold my beer. I got it.
So I did finish The Sweetest Remedy on Tuesday, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I really did enjoy the story and watching Hannah find out about her family, watching the process of her family accepting Hannah, and also figuring out how they were going to move forward as a family. I really did enjoy that part of the book. I did find there were probably too many perspectives for this book. And I also found that it did start dragging near the last 50 pages. I felt like a lot of things had been kind of wrapped up, but for some reason the book was continuing. So that's kind of how I settled at a 3.5. I did really enjoy the Nigerian culture sprinkled into this book, and I think that is what is the shining light of this book. I, however, would probably recommend reading it with your eyes. The audiobook is just okay. Because there are so many perspectives and only one narrator, it did make it hard to follow if I wasn't reading along with the book as I was listening. Every time I left the book and went to do other things, I would kind of lose track of what perspective I was in. That being said, right after I finished this, we were in the middle of a pizza party and I needed another book. So I did another roll, and let's see how that shook out.
Roll number 3 is a 6, a donut space, big in the title.
For that one, I ended up getting the prompt of big in the title, and I decided to read Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. This is the start of a cozy fantasy series, and I will say I do not read a lot of cozy fantasy. Not because I don't like it. I don't actually know if I like it. I just don't pick it up typically. However, I will say the fantasy I do like, I like it because it has stakes. So I'm a little bit concerned that cozy fantasy isn't necessarily my vibe. And this book, I will say, is not really my vibe. Now, does that mean it's because of this book or because it's cozy fantasy? I have yet to decide. I would have to read more cozy fantasy books to really know for sure if it's a book problem or if it's just a genre problem. I'm not disliking this book, but I'm not really settling into it and super engaged in it and really wanting to pick it up very quickly. On sprints, I ended up reading 94 pages of this book, and I haven't picked it up since, and that was 2 days ago. It is now Thursday. So that's a thing that has happened. I'm not as invested in this book, that's for sure. In this book, we follow Emerson, and Emerson is very invested in her small town. Very invested. She is putting on a lot of events for the small town, and she really wants the town to survive. And most of the 95 pages that I have read is just Emerson working at her bookstore and talking about things she wants to have happen in the town. I need more plot than that. And thankfully, right as I kind of finished up, we started to hit a little bit more plot. But I don't know if we're going to continue with that from where I also left it. So Emerson goes to the cemetery to check on her roses. I think it's roses. It's some sort of plant. Anyway, the mayor has cut down her plants. While she is there, she encounters these creatures and ends up having all her friends come and like kill the creatures. Her friends obviously know what these are. She doesn't understand what they are, and she realizes she is actually a witch. But because she was not very strong in her magic, she actually chose to have her brain wiped so that she wouldn't know about the magical world. Now, obviously, she's finding out that there was a lot of things going on that she doesn't remember because she had this mind wipe. That part, interesting. And they're trying to figure out like who sent the creatures. That got my attention. But immediately after that, we just went to her bookstore and started to like be a bookstore owner. And I don't know if that level of slice of life is going to work for me in a fantasy. I'm not giving up hope yet, but I'm actually not going to be reading this today because I'm supposed to be starting a buddy read. And if you noticed in that roll that got me here, it got me one roll away from the free space. So I know that my last roll is going to hit me on a free space because I only need to roll a 1. So let's dive into my last roll of Timmy's TBR and we'll talk about what I'm going to use for that free space, which will be my buddy read.
And our last roll is a mood read.
Wow, shockingly, I got to the end of the board. There was no other possible outcome because I only needed to roll a 1, but I am now at the end of the board and at the end of my mood read and free space. Today, I am starting Blood Marked by Tracy Dion. This is the second book in the Legendborn series. And I am going to be buddy reading this with Anna. Anna from the Liminal Season is joining Leandra and I today on Meet the Booktuber. When I planned this, I knew that we both wanted to read this book. And I said, hey, why don't we do like a little impromptu buddy read on sprints? So that's what we're going to do. And since I knew it would work for where I was on the board, I figured let's just hasten to this book. So I'm going to kind of be reading both books somewhat simultaneously. I don't know how much I'll be jumping back and forth or if I'll just read through most of this and then go back or what exactly I'll do. It will depend on the pace of the buddy read, mostly. So you're going to see me kind of reading both books together. And I'll keep you updated on both as we go. Being that this is a sequel, I am not going to be able to tell you much about it, so I don't know how much I'll check in with this book, which is probably good that I'm still reading the other book. So I can kind of check in with both without spoiling the first book and also Blood Marked, because anything I say about Blood Marked will be a spoiler for Legendborn. So I'm going to really only be able to tell you my vibes of reading versus like actual story and plot points. Can I finish both books in 3 days? Probably not. So that's probably too high of a goal, but we'll see how we go. Okay, friends, it is now Saturday and it is the last day of Timmy's TBRathon, so I need to finish this board. But things have happened since I last talked to you, so let's get on the same page. On Thursday, I ended up reading part 1 of Blood Marked. That got me to page 132. So I'm not that far through this considering it's almost 600 pages. So there is absolutely no way I'm going to finish this today. So I think because I do really want to finish the board today, I'm going to replace this with a different book. Yesterday, I did not read that much. Yesterday was Tortured Poets Department Day, which I knew I was going to obsess and want to listen to at least once through. Little did I know there were going to be 31 songs. So listening to it once through was over 2 hours. Did I listen to it twice through? Yes, I did. And then did I continue to listen to my favorite songs over and over? Yes, again, I did. So basically any moment that I would normally be listening to an audiobook, I was listening to Taylor. But I did end up eventually picking up a little bit of audiobook and reading another 50 pages of Small Town Big Magic. However, I have decided to DNF this. We are just not moving forward in any sort of plot enough to keep my attention in this book. We had that thing happen with these magical creatures and her finding out she's a witch, and then we just go back to regular life. Even to the point that like an animal shows up and one of her friends is like, it's your familiar, and she's so disinterested in that she just is like, how's the festival going? And I'm like, can you care about the magical creature that's next to you? Like, that's much more exciting than the festival in your small town. Her priorities are a little bit off from what I care about, so I'm going to DNF this at page 151. All that being said, I am going to finish the board today by replacing Blood Marked with Heartstopper Volume 5. I have yet to read Volume 5 of Heartstopper, so I'm very excited to get to this today, and I'm going to knock this out and finish the board with Heartstopper. So it's Sunday, the readathon's over, and yesterday I did read Heartstopper Volume 5. No surprise, 5 stars, absolutely adored being back with Nick and Charlie. In this volume, we really see Nick and Charlie explore what's next for their relationship in both intimacy as well as now that Nick is starting to look at universities and potentially going off to uni. If you've read the Nick and Charlie novella called Nick and Charlie, you kind of know what happens when Nick goes to university because that follows that timeline. So I kind of already knew what Nick was going to decide in this graphic novel, but I still really did enjoy following it and being with these characters. These characters have my whole heart, and I just love what Alice Oseman has done with Nick and Charlie and what Nick and Charlie means to a whole generation of people that maybe my generation did not have. But that is the end of Timmy's TBRathon. I had such a fun week reading and playing a mini version of my TBR game. And I hope you had fun watching what kind of chaos the mini TBR board gave me. If you've read any of these books and want to chat with me about them, please chat to me down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.